What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Covalence version of a multi-part series on building a Reddit client using Next.js, React, TypeScript, and Tailwind. In this first video, we're just going to be going over the basics and setting up your project in Visual Studio Code, downloading the right node packages, and kind of just getting ready to get crazy with development. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, and hope you can follow along. All right, so we're going to get started here. I have my terminal open to my desktop, and we're going to use npx create next app. And we're going to set the TypeScript flag since we want to use TypeScript. All right, and it's going to ask us to name our project. Let's call it Reddit, and it's going to start installing the dependencies. My least favorite part of development, sitting here waiting for all this to install. Drink a little kombucha. I don't know why I love this stuff. I feel like it's one of those things, you either love it or you hate it, and I love it. Almost done. Perfect. So we're going to cd into our Reddit folder. And now we can open up Visual Studio Code in this directory. So let's go ahead and pull that into view. And you can see that Create Next App actually created our project already. We have a Css Config since we specified the TypeScript flag, so that's already set up for us. It gave us a README. It set up our environment. And it installed things like React and React DOM already. It actually has a linter already in there, and you can actually see there's a npm run lint command in the scripts object. And so a lot of these things are already, it's pretty much out of the box, ready to run. You can run npm run dev, and this thing will pull up a web page, and you're good to go. So we can actually do that real quick. If we open up a terminal, we'll run just npm run dev. And it says that we can go to localhost 3000. So we'll pull up a web browser real quick. Localhost 3000, and you can see welcome to Next.js. So this page is already kind of set up. And if we go to the code and we look at the index.js here, we'll see that it actually, all of that code is in there already. And so by default, let's see. Oh, let's go ahead and end that batch job, and then we'll close out of that terminal real quick. But by default, the app's already set up for you. You're ready to start coding. You can just start adding your code to this page and then modifying it at hot reloads. Next is pretty awesome out of the box. And so let's start configuring it to not only use React, but we also want to use Tailwind, right? And so let's go ahead and open up our terminal again, and some of these. And we're going to say npm I Tailwind CSS -- save. All right, so I'll install that for us real quick. Now, Tailwind uses a little bit more than, it needs a little bit more than just the Tailwind package. We're going to need auto prefixer, we're going to need post CSS as well. So let's go ahead and we'll pull up the package just so we can see those things being added. But npm I auto prefixer post CSS -- save. All right, so now we got auto prefixer and post CSS in here as well. Now, one other thing that I like to install, this isn't mandatory, but I love the formatting capabilities of something like Prettier. So let's go ahead and we're going to use that as well. So npm I Prettier, save dev, since we can just add it to our dev dependencies. We won't need this in production. And boom, so now we're ready to go. We just need to kind of create our setup, our environment files that are going to allow a lot of these node packages to run out of the box. So let's start with Prettier. Prettier requires a JSON file. So it actually uses a .prettierrc.json. And you can pull a lot of these options from their website. If you go to Prettier npm, or you look up Google Prettier npm and you just find their website, and they have documentation. But a few of the ones that I like to use, again, this is totally up to you, but I like trailing comma. I like to set my tab width to 4. I like single quotes. I'm not a big double quote guy. Brackets, same line. And I also like arrow parens set to always. All right, so that'll be our Prettier file. We're going to need a post CSS config file. So that is going to be post css.config.js. And again, this is something that you could pull directly from their website. And so all it is a module export, and we're probably not going to be using much of this. But again, all it's saying is that the plugins that we're going to be using is Tailwind and Auto Prefixer. And you could add additional options here, but for now we're going to leave this blank. Lastly, we're going to need the Tailwind config file. And this is also something that you can pull directly from their website as well. They have a template already kind of set out for you. But basically, you set the content, right, which is where Tailwind's going to look for the actual classes that it's going to use, because it actually purges out any classes that aren't being used to keep the CSS file as small as possible. And then the rest of this is actually directly from their website. I'm just going to go ahead and pull it from there real quick. But for the content standpoint, and we're not going to be using any of the themes, variants, or plugins for now, but we might down the road, so we're going to add it in there, have it all set up by default, and we're going to be looking in the pages file. Now we might add some folders later on, but for now we're just going to be setting this, and then as we create folders, we'll come back and we'll add stuff to this file. So we want to look at JS files, TS files, JSX, and TSX files for any content that might be using these classes, right? So in a TSX file, there definitely be class names that we want to use, but there also could be some exported references from TS files or JS files that we're going to want to definitely look at, and we could be using those across different TSX files and things like that to kind of keep certain classes consistent. And we're going to want to look in there for any of those classes that Tailwind can use to put in its production file. All right, and so that's going to be our Tailwind config. Now we're more or less set up and ready to go. The final thing would really just be kind of configuring our Git if we're using Git. Now you might not be using Git, but since we're planning on probably deploying this later on, we will go ahead and configure Git as well. So it kind of looks like we might, let's see if we have any type of Git status. We do, so Git is actually already initted, and we can go ahead and we can add a lot of these things. We're already on main, it looks like, and so we're going to want to add and commit real quick. So we can say git add -a, we can say git commit -am, we'll just say first commit, and we're going to need to add our remote. So git remote add origin. We're going to use a Covalence remote, and then we're going to git push -u origin main. All right, and now we're actually tracking the new branch main at our origin, and we are more or less ready to get started. All right, hope you guys enjoyed that and hope you were able to follow along. Like I said, this is just part 1 of a multi-part series, so be on the lookout for part 2. All right, see you soon.